While nice and good may seem synonymous, I believe they come from two different camps, with niceness being more passive and aesthetic, and goodness being more active and ethical. What came to mind for me with this topic is peacekeepers versus peacemakers. So a peacekeeper avoids conflict to keep peace. A peacemaker, by contrast, faces conflict with honesty and courage. They don't seek confrontation for its own sake, but they're not afraid of it if it leads to truth. They understand that real peace is not kept, but built, and that sometimes you have to walk through fire for reconciliation. It's comfortable for me to be a nice, non-confrontational peacekeeper. It's always been easy for me to sense tension in a room and smooth it out as quickly as possible. And then I married a peacemaker, a good man, someone who doesn't fear confrontation, who speaks truth even when it shakes the room. And at first, this rattled my nervous system. I would often mistake his directness for rudeness or lack of compassion. When he raised hard questions or challenged things that I wanted to gloss over, I thought I was the regulated one and he was overreacting. But over time, I began to see it differently, that he wasn't trying to break peace. He just refused to settle for a false one. In our case, autism adds another layer. And while I prefer that he speaks to this, what I have observed is that when something isn't right, he feels it intensely, almost as if his body rejects dishonesty, even in subtle forms. And at first, that intensity was hard for me to understand, and it created conflict. There were times where I would literally say or think, just be nice. But I eventually realized those conflicts were often moments of moral clarity crashing into my habit of smoothing things over. Where he was protecting truth, I would kind of just be protecting calm, trying to keep the peace while he was out to make real peace. And that realization humbled me deeply because I saw this integrity in this kind of peace. It wasn't performative, and in fact, it's costly. He wouldn't accept social approval at the cost of his integrity. It required courage, honesty, and a love strong enough to hold discomfort until it transformed. So now I see what I once called regulated as sometimes just avoidance, and what I saw as dysregulated was more truth in action. So with all that to say, in my experience, I've come to see that niceness is often the avoidance of conflict to keep the peace, and goodness engages conflict to create real peace.